Hi there, and welcome back to the Red Rugby League channel. We hope you are all well. It is another glorious Tuesday in the world of rugby league, which means that the team lists have been published, the changes have been made, the teams have been lined up, and that means that myself and Luke are here to take you through all the team news, all the swap arounds, and give our tips for the upcoming round of the NRL into round 22 now, so down into the home stretch. As ever, Luke will be joining me to go through all the team lists. How are you going, mate?
We are surviving, mate. Lockdown has extended into week number 7 here in the greatest city in the world. But we're pushing on. We've got plenty of rugby league to look forward to and discuss, and a hell of a lot of changes. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, mate. I'm looking forward to another exciting show. Plenty to go through, plenty of team changes, some odd lineups in a few places and a few shifts. For you, those of you joining us for the first time, don't know the setup, we go through all the games in chronological order, starting with Thursday's games, moving right the way through to Sundays. And as ever, if you don't have time to enjoy the full hour-long experience with myself and Luke, you can watch all the individual previews over on our recast channel. So head to the link in our Facebook page and you'll see that there. Follow that through. Get a nice little referral bonus for yourself as well. And with that, we will jump straight into game number 1. It is the Storm versus the Raiders. Starting off with the Storm lineup, they are virtually unchanged with the exception of Felice Kafusi coming back into the starting lineup. Reclaiming that 11 shirt after a niggling injury put him out last week. Nelson Asafa-Solomona into the 16 as well. Chris Lewis moving from the starting ranks into the bench spot, and Harry Grant and Ryan Pappenhausen are maintaining their bench role as well in the 14 and 17 respectively, which means that Eisenhuth is bumped to the bench with Jordan Grant, and then it is Moiroa and Lumi as well. Going over to the Raiders, again, only small amounts of changes for the Raiders themselves. Simonson bumps Valame out of the side. He comes back in and will take a starting spot on the wing, which means that Smith Shields retains that 5 shirt. It is the familiar front row of Papali and Tapine in the 8 and 10, with Gula and Harawira-Nara still holding bench spots. Soliola is drafted in to the bench as well. And then it is Chris, Frawley, Louis and Havili making up the reserves. So a few changes for the Raiders in there as well, but both sides pretty much sticking with the same lineups. You'd be remiss to look past the Storm in this one after how good they were against the Panthers. It was a slightly shook up side, but I mean the Storm, they are consistently one of the better teams. They turn up every single week, and even with a strange looking bench that features 2 utilities and only 2 recognised forwards, they still turn up and they still kill it week in, week out. I mean, how do you look past the Storm in this one when you've got Nico Hines in the 1, who's going to be a 6 next season probably at the Sharks, and yet he's keeping someone like Ryan Pappenhausen on the bench and out of that starting lineup? It's very tricky to look past the Storm here.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Pappenhausen was electric coming off the bench last week against the Panthers. The Storm really didn't miss a step when Hines came off and Pappy came on. They lose their first choice and gain their first choice kicker with the 1 rotation. Pappenhausen has a little more speed than Hines. Hines has a little more ball playing ability. But no matter what way you look at it, they're both strike weapons in their own right. You look at this Melbourne side that has an Origin number 9 on the bench, a Kiwi international on the bench. Pappenhausen was very much in line for a New South Wales berth, potentially as the 14 on the bench, as opposed to Starling, who realistically probably should be starting, Emery Gula, who's good, not bad, but not Origin. Corey Harawira-Naera, pretty good year for him, but a bit of a form slump at the moment. And Sia Soliola, who's been to England, dominated England, come back, and has been serviceable, but is getting towards the end of his career. Just on that alone, you have to say Melbourne 13 plus, Melbourne 20 plus even, especially with it being on the Sunshine Coast. It's the home away from home. You've got Justin Olam running at Jared Croker, which is scary. No, Croker is... no, because Croker's left-hand side,
Yeah.
So Olam scoring no matter what. Like, that is the gimme anytime bet of the week, if there ever was one, and he's currently paying $1.83 on Sportsbet. Thank you very much. If you want to go for anyone else, the Raiders are known for some defensive lapses in the middle part of the game when Josh Papali'i isn't there. You could go for someone like a Welsh or Bromwich or Finucane for value. Again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. The Cheese at 288. After about 30 minutes, he's going to be burrowing around. It wouldn't surprise me if Harry Grant tries to go over from short when he comes on. But because he tries to go over, he'll soak up some defenders in the middle. Brandon Smith will go into dummy half and he'll scoot through. Yeah. So I'm going Olam and the Cheese. Storm 13 plus. If I have to pick a Raiders anytime try scorer, I mean, none of them really give me a whole bunch of confidence. Whiten maybe is probably your best bet. He's going to have to do some special stuff. Elliot Whitehead against Felice Kafusi, maybe. They would probably be my two tips for the Raiders if I had to throw out some suggestions, but Olam, Cheese, Storm 13 plus, probably pays like $5, but a win's a win.
Yeah. The Storm last week basically faced one of the form teams in the competition in the Seagulls, a red-hot Tom Trbojevic. Their back line, the Seagulls are a very hard team to limit on points, and that's what the Storm did. The Storm limited the Seagulls to 18, whereas the Raiders spluttered against the Dragons side that is very much makeshift, very much held together by chewing gum and duct tape at this point, with the amount of changes that they're going through and the snubs that are being thrown around in that Dragons lineup, and the rumours of discontent in the side, and the Raiders didn't look fantastic. And for me, I'm going to go Storm 13 plus. I'm going to say the Raiders under 16.5 points. And I'm going to join you on Olam there. I think Olam is probably my tip as well, or maybe Cameron Munster. Mentioned there that the forwards from time to time start to get a little bit tiresome in the middle, start to switch off in those key areas of the game, and someone like Cameron Munster or Jerome Hughes will take full advantage of that, and they don't need a second invitation to throw a dummy and open up a hole, and they've got more than enough pace to be able to take on Rapner at the back. And he's no slouch, but for me, I just think that the Raiders are not going to hold up against this Storm side. As we mentioned, the Seagulls are one of the form teams of the competition last week, and the Storm, ran riot in parts of the game and really closed it out. So that's where my head goes on that one, and those are my tips for that game in particular.
Yeah, Munster I thought was going to score twice, if not three times last week with how he was going against Manly. They were very lucky to not have conceded more out of him. So Munster, I think, was paying about $3 on Sportsbet when I had a look. So I like that. Good value. Okay.
And we go to the Dragons versus the Panthers, which is our next game through into the Friday offering. In the one, it is Jack Bird. He's going to return that one shirt, while Matt Duffy is still down there in the 18, despite being the Dragons' leading try scorer, as he continues to be snubbed for that one. Beale comes into the centre, so no Ramsey this week. It will be Beale in the 3, Lomax in the 4. The halves are Norman and Clune. Fuimiono comes into the 12 shirt in the starting lineup. Maguire in the 10 as well. And then through to the bench, it is Amon, Ford, Kurt and Ellis, which is the same bench that they ran with last week. and the same reserves bar Hunt, who comes into the 21 shirt. That's Jaden Hunt. Obviously, Ben Hunt is done for this season. So that is how the Dragons line up for that one. And then through into the Panthers lineup, Edwards is still the first choice fullback. They do welcome back Stephen Crichton, who will slot into the 3 shirt, which means that Targo is named on the bench despite his performance. I thought he played it very well. Capewell moving out of the side. Luai and Burton are still your halves for that game. Still no news on a potential Nathan Cleary return. Tyrone May named in the reserves with Tavita Pangai Jr. and Salmon, as well as Nathan Cleary. But again, Cleary is still a massive doubt for this game. It's tricky for the Panthers situation, having no Nathan Cleary. You saw how missed he was last week. There were just points of the game where, you know, you'd want Nathan Cleary to put his cooling hand on this and, you know, put a little bit of calm to the game. And, you know, don't get me wrong, the Panthers got the result against an impressive Roosters side. They stepped up with makeshift players, you know, Capewell playing in the centre. Yes, he plays centre at Origin, but he's not a natural centre. Liam Martin at prop did a job against some of those big boys at the Roosters, and you know, nobody took a step back. I thought Targo had a great game as well out on the wing, and really came in looking for work. And you know, it's great to see Momorovsky in keeping that centre shirt. I thought that he's been one of the players who's been snubbed, unfortunately, by the Panthers, but it all comes down to form and ability, and you know, he's shown that ability and he keeps that centre spot, and he'll partner Naden again. I mean, Panthers 13 plus is the obvious call out here. You're unlikely to see Tavita Pangai Jr. If you are a Panthers fan for probably the next week or two. He obviously had to leave the bubble in order to go tend to personal issues back home in Queensland, and that means that he's breached the bubble, which means that he now needs to go through 2 weeks as per NRL protocols, which means that although he's named in the 18, you're probably not going to see him run out for probably at least until round 23, 24 at this point, depending on where the Panthers games drop. So, but still, Panthers 13 plus. I said it, you know, I think it was last week. I realistically maybe don't see the Dragons winning another game this season. I think they're just waiting for the end at this point. The Dragons falling apart as we tend to see from a Dragons side. They struggle towards the back end of the season, and this season's been no different. Luke, you posted something via TikTok the other day of the Dragons downfall on the ladder, and it's not pretty viewing for Dragons fans, and they are at severe risk of completely missing finals football again this year.
Yeah, it's not pretty, is it? They are. It all stems back from a certain incident, shall we say? I mean, it was stemming back long before that, and I think there's a bit of a culture problem there at the Dragons, if I'm being completely honest. That stems back prior to this season, back when Mary McGregor was the coach. But like they're looking pretty damn well done at the moment. They haven't won in their past 5, played 4 and had the bye. They're currently 2 points out of the 8. But up against the Panthers side this week, that is just... it's hard to... You can't even discredit the Panthers that are under strength. Yeah, like you said, Tavita Pangai Jr. easily makes their 17. And the saving grace for him is, I believe, his partner was in hotel quarantine as part of the NRL's plan to get their partners back together. So I don't know how that would work. I don't know if the partner left quarantine because of what happened. I'm not overly sure, but yeah, hopefully things for him and the family are okay and they're able to get through this period. But yeah, the Dragons screwed. the Dragons are screwed. That's the only way to put it. If they lose this week, you can kiss their finals chances goodbye. Dino, nice to see you again this week, mate. Dragons won't win another game like the Eels. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get to that. Dragons, yeah, you're right, though. I don't think the Dragons do win another game. They've been abysmal at the best of times, and you can't feasibly tip them this week. Panthers currently have a line of 18.5. I am hitting that. I think they win 30 plus, to be completely honest. Anytime try scorers, looking at any value for the Panthers. Looking at the lineup for this week, we've also got the judiciary up. So, mind you, keep in mind, Api Coruscant's pleading his case for the judiciary, so there may be that change later on. That could see Mitch Kenny into the 9, and in all likelihood, if Pangai does play, him onto the bench. Otherwise, Salmon potentially comes in as the utility. But yeah, in terms of any value bets, and by value I mean anything over $2 on an anytime try scorer market, Paul Movorovsky, $2.10 coming up against Gerard Beale, who's not an overly strong defender. Has not been fantastic for the Dragons since coming out of retirement. He's done his job, but he's not great. He's at 2.10. Don't mind that. In terms of any other starting players, kick out against Fui Mayono. These are two big, strong boys, but they're also big, strong boys who tire quickly. Fui Mayono more so than Billy Kickow. Billy currently listed as 2.10 as well. If I'm looking at the Dragons, Lomax, I believe, comes up against Crichton. There's potential there. I believe it's Crichton and Staines on that wing. Staines not an overly strong leaper in the air. Lomax could very well just get up above and in between Staines and Crichton there and go over. Those are probably the 3 try scorers I'd offer up. If you're looking for a 3-leg multi, I'd definitely go Momorovsky, Kickow, Panthers on the line. You can add Lomax if you want to bump that up to probably what will be over a $10 multi. I would hazard a guess. Looking at it now, I can't see it right now, but yeah, I'd say that'd be probably around $10, $12. Like the safe bet is Panthers 13 plus, paying $1.50. There's no ifs and arms about that.
Yeah. I'm going to go Panthers 13 plus as well. I'm going to say Dragons under 18.5 match points, and I'm going to go Crichton anytime. I was fancying Momorovsky as well, but we won't jump on that one. We'll switch to the other side. I think Crichton coming back from missing a few games will have a little bit of making up to do, and yeah, I think the Crichton Lomax battle in the air is going to be an interesting one. Crichton's got a decent leap on him. Lomax, as you've seen year in year out, has been consistently fantastic in the air, but he has the propensity to miss tackles or make errors, and I think someone like Stephen Crichton could very much be in a position to punish Zach Lomax for an error here. So that's where I go for that one, and I can't see a Dragons win or even Dragons staying close in this one.
All right, Crichton at $2 is probably a little bit of value there. I was a bit wrong. I thought it was going to be a $10 multi in my one. Panthers 13 plus, Momorovsky, Kickow, Lomax, all to score any time. 19.25 at the moment. If you want to chuck a cheeky power play and throw a tenner on it, gamble responsibly, obviously, but that's a bit more value than I thought, Matthew.
Okay. And we will go to the next game. It is the Broncos versus the Roosters. Obviously, the Roosters falling short last week will wanting to be making it up and atoning for their loss, as well as the Broncos, who lost out 28 points to 28 against the Newcastle Knights. We go through the lineups. Selwyn Cobbo is into the centres. He will be partnering Herbie Farnworth in the 4 shirt and Oates on his wing, with Xavier Coates coming out of the reserves and into a starting lineup shirt as well. No Brodie Croft this week for the Broncos, with the news that he will be departing to join Super League side Salford. So it is Albert Kelly who partners Tyson Gamble in the halves. Flegler comes in for Palacia, so Flegler back into the 8, and then that is the rest of the starting lineup unchanged. Xavier Willison keeps his 14 shirt from last week as well, so great to see him managing to retain that shirt. And then it's Kennedy, Bullimore, and Rabati making up the bench, with Pakes, Milford, Piakura, and Mead making up the reserves for that Broncos side. Over to the Roosters. They are missing Angus Crichton this week. He will be gone for that crusher tackle in the Panthers game. So it is it is Nat Butcher who comes into the starting lineup and will be in the 11 shirt. Takiaho is out of the 17 and into the 10. Copley will feature again on the wing for the Roosters. Tupanua in the 12, and then through to the bench it is Lamb, Egan Butcher, Baker, and White. Through to reserves, it's Marshke, Howe, Tapoa, Abbey, and Thomas, and that is the Roosters lineup. I am going to go Roosters 1-12 in this one. And the logic behind this is we are seeing slight signs of improvement from the Broncos. The Roosters last week were just not clinical enough for me. They didn't have that killer edge that we are used to seeing out of a Roosters lineup. And don't get me wrong, they were still a fantastic side. They are playing the Broncos versus playing the Panthers is a very different thing. But we spoke about players with points to prove. Albert Kelly arguably has a massive point to prove with Brodie Croft now out of the lineup. Kelly will be wanting to secure these last 5 or 6 games where he's trying to really iron down that 7 shirt and get a contract for next year, because I'm pretty sure that he's only on a 1-year deal. Xavier Coates has found himself massively on the outer. Selwyn Cobbo, we've not seen him feature for a few weeks. Tessie News, still no contract. And, we're getting to that point of the season where that window closes and Tessie will then hit the open market. So he'll be either wanting to secure that 1 shirt or he'll be looking elsewhere. Willison came in, did a shift for the Broncos, looked good in those areas that he did come in and play. Ricky had a lot of criticism in the first half of the season. I think he's come on leaps and bounds in this second half of the season, and I think that the Roosters will not see this one out as easily as many anticipate they will.
The way you were looking, I was wondering if you were going to say Broncos, and I would have reached through the screen and smacked you across the back of the head.
No, we're not that far down the rabbit hole yet.
Oh, so you're not me of last month. Very good, sir. Good to hear. It's a little tougher. I'll be open and honest here. I haven't seen many of the team lists until now. The back line obviously goes the way of the Roosters. There's no doubt about that. Maybe Farnworth over Kieran. That would probably be the only place where Farnworth, Kieran, and Oates over Copley, purely on game time this year, because Copley, I think, has played 3 games. Oates, at least, has been consistent in the last month and a half. But Tedesco v New, Tedesco all the way. Tupou going up against Coates. Good battle. Still take Tupou over Coates. Manu over Cobbo. Granted, we haven't seen much of Cobbo. If you want nitty-gritty, Gamble over Hutchison, but Hutchison over Gamble in terms of game management. Walker has just played more this year. Walker over Kelly, but we know what Kelly can do. The forward pack is a bit more interesting, I think. I think you have Flegler over Liu. Verrills obviously over Levi. Haas over Taukeiaho. Butcher over Glenn. Tupanua over Ricky. And I'm going Hetherington over Radley. Because I think the Broncos are just going to try and belt the crap out of the Roosters. That's going to be how they win. If they win. I am going Roosters 13+. We'll put that one there. I saw the breath, Matthew. I see the little... Okay, thank fuck.
Yeah. I disagree with some of those lineups. I'd say Takiaho over Haas right now, based on form. Takiaho's been coming
form?
from Haas
Matthew!
Haas has not had the season that he's had.
It's
Haas
hard
is
to when you have 33 different changes and you're basically a ball-playing prop. Matt!
Takiaho over Haas right now. Absolutely.
We'll put this one to the Facebook crew. I'm sure it'll be Haas over Takiaho.
Let us know in the comments. Tell me I'm wrong. At the minute, Takiaho, now that he's back in starting lineup and back to full strength, I mean, it's going to be a big middle battle. I'd love to see two big guys going at it and just, ripping in hell for leather. But for me, I think Takiaho potentially offers more to this game than Haas does. And the reason that I say that is that Takiaho is very much more unpredictable than Haas. Haas, you know that he's going to come on an angle, he's going to straighten up, and because he likes the physicality of it, he's going to go faces instead of spaces. Takiaho has that little bit more footwork. He has a little bit more of an offload. He's got a little bit more experience as well. Takiaho offers a kicking game as well. Let's not forget that Takiaho, when he's on the field, can be a kicker. There's how many props do you see with a kicking license? Most have been revoked. If you wanted to throw an absolute wild card in there, you give it Takiaho on the last and let him stick a grubber in behind the line. How many props? How many people are going to rush Takiaho thinking that it's going to be a hit up, and if he stabs a kick in behind, there's going to be a great plane of existence behind him. Yeah, Dean. Haas hasn't been making the meters and only makes one hit up every 2 or 3 sets. Agree on Taki.
Dino, mate, I appreciate you, but your tip was wrong last week. I can't believe you're going with Matthew this week. No, look, Takiaho does not have a general field kicking license. He doesn't. He's a kicker from the tee. Yeah, that's what I thought, Dean. He's a kicker from the tee. Fair enough if you're giving him a goal kick, because I'm not putting Haas on there. But in general play, more offloads, more busted tackles, more try assists this year. He's developed enough of a passing game to be lethal enough close to the line. A stronger ball runner, and he's not as injury prone. Give me Haas every day of the week.
And then what was the other one? Hetherington over Radley, did I hear you say?
So typically it's Radley over Hetherington. Radley is a much better player. Do not get me wrong there. But this week, Hetherington is going to line Radley up and belt the crap out of him. Because they've got to take Radley out. They do not have another ball playing 13. Oh, let me pull the teams up before I dig my hole even deeper here. They don't have another ball playing 13 on their bench.
No, but they do have Nat Butcher, who can easily slot into that 13. Then you bring Egan Butcher or Baker from the bench.
But Butcher is not a ball playing 13. He's a running 13.
He's
a Nathan Brown. He may have a passing game, but it's not a passing game you want. He's a ball hustling, line bending 13, Nat Butcher. And yeah, granted, Kobe Hetherington is still the same. But Hetherington, his base as a junior was hooker. He's got a better passing game than Nat Butcher. Potentially, yeah, he and Radley in terms of passing game is on par. In the sense that they have the same skill set. Radley, from what we've seen, executes better because he's been in the NRL longer. But Kobe's big. He's a big, beefy boy. Radley's not going to shy down from it, but Hetherington's going to look to get up in Radley's face, shut down those opportunities for him. This week, Hetherington over Radley. Most other weeks, Radley over Hetherington. There is sound reasoning behind it.
Radley is going to fold him away like lawn furniture. If he runs at Vic Radley, Big Bad Rad is going to fold him up like a deck chair. It will happen. Radley bagged a try last week. He's looking better now that he's coming back from injury and hitting full fitness and getting them minutes back under his belt. Radley over Hetherington every day. And this week will be no different. Don't get me wrong. I have said Roosters 1-12. I do think it'll be a closer game. I stick with that one, despite the fact that how emphatically I'm going in these individual battles. But again, individuals don't always win games. They can definitely contribute to a result, but no individual can actually win a game for a team. Kelly is a danger. I think that when he comes back and he's got a point to prove, we saw it a few weeks. I think it was like round 8 or 9. He came in and had a few stints. His kicking game was a real problem for teams. He's got a good kicking game. If the Broncos can follow that kicking game up with a solid chase, they have potentially grounds to pin the Roosters back and force them to come up with some creative plays to get out. Kieran has looked shaky in the centres for me in spots. He doesn't bring the same level of attacking threat that maybe a Morris would, or even Tupanua playing out in the centres. So I think there's a potential weak spot. So I'm going to say Xavier Coates anytime. As the numbers line up, he'd be going up against Tupou and Kieran. And I think there's a chance that he just goes straight through the middle of the pair of them. Or potentially just up the inside of Kieran on that inside shoulder. So I'm going to go Xavier Coates anytime. I'm going to go Roosters 1-12. And I think that's as much as I'm going to give on that one for me.
Would you be better off saying Herbie?
No. I think if Herbie gets the ball, they know that he's not going to pass. He likes to step inside. He likes to check himself on that left foot and try and come back on the inside, and it becomes readable and predictable. And I think that's why Coates is potentially a better shout for me here.
Fair enough. Roosters 13+. I think it's a very exciting game. It's Broncos Roosters is always a good game. It always is. I don't think it'll be a massive blowout. I still think it's going to be 13+. I'm going Tupanua anytime against Alex Glenn. Glenn, a shade of his former self. He's not playing as well as I think he would like to be. It would not surprise me if next year he plays for the Cook Islands at the World Cup and calls it a day. That I wouldn't be overly surprised there. I mean, you've got plenty of options. If Verrills plays 80, I think he scores in that 15-minute period where Payne Haas is off. Their forwards, the Broncos forwards always drop down about 4 notches. I don't know why, but about 4 notches when Payne Haas goes off, and they let plenty go through the middle. I know I've already picked a hooker this week. I'll go a second one. Verrills is quick out of dummy half. He's shown an ability to scoot. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over. In terms of the Broncos, I mean, I think they're going to have to target Corey Oates going up against Dale Copley. Copley hasn't had game time this year. Oates is probably their best bet, paying at 225. Don't really see many others. I think Xavier Coates is an opportunity, as is Herbie. Herbie is at 350 if you want value. Coates is at 210. Tupanua at 210, and I forget the other one that I said. Verrills 433. So there is value if you want to go looking for it. Roosters 13+, and Tupanua would be the 2 gimmies for me, though.
Okay. We'll get off that one then and onto the Rabbitohs versus the Titans. And Wayne Bennett has opted for the same 17 that did the Eels in emphatically last week. The only changes are Selly into the reserves, and that is it. That is your only Rabbitohs change. If it broke, don't fix it, and that is the approach that Wayne Bennett will be taking for this one. Over to the Titans lineup, and it is very much the same, with the exception of this is not an error. Fermor is named in the 17 shirt, but in the second row. Fafita named in the 12, but on the bench. Peachy in the 14 shirt. He is a welcome return for the amount of impact that he offers. Aaron Clark, Sam McIntyre, Ersan Masters, and Jamal Foggerty are in the reserves. Other than that, it is an unchanged Titans side from the previous week. First things first, we will talk a little bit around the Rabbitohs. Last week, they looked so good. They fired in hot. Mansour put in a huge shift in the first half. I think he had something like 141 running meters by halftime, which is ridiculous.
I'm going to step aside for a second. You keep talking. I'm going to go cry in a corner just real quick.
The Rabbitohs, it was a big week for them. Obviously, Adam Reynolds taking out that. The scarf is back. Adam Reynolds taking out the title of top point scorer at the Rabbitohs as well against the Eels in a very important top four clash. The forward pack did an absolute number. Koloa Matungi is arguably one of the most underrated forwards in the comp right now. He comes in every single week and puts in a huge shift, and he makes bigger men and more recognisable faces as well. Bow at his mercy in some occasions. He comes in and he hits hard and he runs the ball even harder. So I've potentially got him earmarked for a try this week based on the fact that the Titans sometimes switch off through the middle and it can allow people to go through. The Titans, again, quality last week. They are putting together a strong case as to why they will be there or thereabouts when it comes to finals football. 36-14 win over the Cowboys. Ash Taylor, in that 6 shirt, still no new deal for him as yet. He's got limited time to prove himself. At the minute, he's still got Aaron Clark outside the team trying to get back in. You got to feel a little bit for Jamal Foggerty, named co-captain at the beginning of the season. Now he loses his spot to rookie Toby Sexton, who's 2-3 games deep at this point. When you're playing against a team like the Rabbitohs, realistically, you want an experienced head to steer the team around the park and really control the forwards. And at the minute, the Titans have opted for Sexton to do that. And in what is probably one of the youngest halves pairings in comp at the minute, and I can't see Foggerty getting much more game time this season as things currently stand. Luke, what's your thoughts on this one?
Scarf isn't for supporter purposes. It's to wipe the tears away from the fact that my Parramatta Eels are absolute shite. Sorry, Colin. Yeah, I want to highlight the sexy boy here, Toby Sexton. I'm going to throw the scarf away. It makes me do weird things. How good is he? Like, in all seriousness, this kid is an absolute... I can say this now. I'm 24. Many players are younger than me in the NRL. This kid is great. He's superb. He's keeping out Foggerty, who was a smoky choice for Origin this year. With the injuries that they had, like you mentioned, club captain at the start of the year. I don't think Foggerty will be too upset, though, because he's had a couple of injuries this year. He had a hammy. He then obviously had that compound dislocation of his finger. But he gets to watch how Toby plays. And as a result, he will come in round 1 next year, and they will know, like the back of their hand, how each other plays. And it's going to be a fantastic thing to watch when you have the likes of AJ Brimson, Greg Marzhew, Brian Kelly, Moe Fotuaika, Thermore, Fa'asu Malawi, David Fafita, Peachy, if he signs on again, will be a great... I think Peachy has found his mark as a 14, replacing, coming on at the 50th minute, playing 9 and then playing lock at the end. Jamin Jolliffe is fantastic. Aaron Clark's been hard done by, I reckon. He's been superb for the Titans when he's played. Like, the Titans are building a good young roster. I don't think Jamal will be too upset. He's going to be, he's going to be upset because it's, you want to play first grade football, but we like seeing the sexy guy. We like seeing the sexy one. If this ever gets back to Toby, I'm infatuated with how you played, not with you. Let's premise that.
If Toby ever goes missing, I will send the Titans your address. And there's a realistic chance that he's tied up in your basement, just running plays every now and again with you.
Mate, we'll buy Rugby League 4. We'll create him as a character, and you'll just see me just Doritos down me shirtless. Oh, Toby, yes, Toby. All our viewers have probably run away now. As for the Bunnies, I mean, they put Parramatta to the sword. It was painful to watch. It was so good, but so painful to watch. Latrell, Gagai, Mitchell, just so good. Cody Walker was great. Reynolds was great. Yeah, I don't want to talk about last week anymore. I'm going head over heart. My head is saying Bunnies, and I'm tipping the Bunnies. My heart really wants the Titans to win. I would love to see the Titans win, prove that they can take it to a top 4 side. I'm not counting Parramatta as a top 4 side anymore, by the way. And I want to see them prove their worth. They've improved light years this year with Justin Holbrook in his second year. There's no second year syndrome with him. He's worked his magic through injuries and depth issues and form issues with a couple of players. I think he's found the key to unlocking the week in, week out David Fafita coming on after 25 minutes and just playing 55 minutes as hard as he can, because Fermor then goes on to the other side. In terms of tips, Bunnies, whatever the over is, take it, because the Titans do struggle defensively. I think the Bunnies could very well put up a similar score to what the Titans did to what they did to Parramatta last week. But I would also not be surprised if we saw a couple of like 3 or 4 tries out of the Titans, with 2 of them going the way of Greggy Boy up against Jackson Paulo. So my tip, Bunnies, I don't even know what their prices are. I think the Bunnies are about 133 favourites here. Bunnies are 118, really? Okay. The line for the Bunnies, 16.5. I'm gonna go the Titans on the line here. The Titans get the plus 16.5 start. Greg Marzu scores. He's currently listed at 225. I would not be surprised if Brian Kelly does as well at 275. Very hard to ignore Latrell at 172. Titans struggle with the sweeping play out the back. Gagai at 210, also a shout. The value bet is not going to be Mark Nichols, as much as I would love to hit that one again. The value bet at $4.20, Adam Reynolds. Just dummy and scoot.
Okay. I am going to go very much on your line of thinking. I think there's points in this one. Both of these sides have exceeded 30 points in their last 5, with the exception of the Titans losing out 26-8. So both of these teams have got points in them. Both of these teams have a propensity to lapse defensively from time to time, or struggle on their goal line if you're the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And the Titans are a team that can exploit that. So I'm going to say back the over. I'm going to say Rabbitohs on the race to 30. And I am going to go Kaloma-Tungi anytime. As the numbers line up, he'll be running out against Bo Fermor in that first 25 until Fafita comes on. If there's one thing that Kaloma-Tungi wants to do, it is show up David Fafita. He's got an opportunity to go over Fermor. Fermor's shown himself that he can be sturdy in defence, but at times has a habit of turning his hips inwards, and that leaves him a little bit vulnerable on that inside line. Koloamatangi is an inside line runner. He loves to hit those short balls running off Reynolds and eventually Benji Marshall when he gets onto the field. And I think that there's a chance that he manages to get over that way. So keep an eye on that edge as things line up. It'll probably be Fafita coming on into that 12 spot, which means it'll be Koloamatangi versus Fafita eventually. But I think that the try most likely comes while Keenan's going up against Bo Fermor. So that's my line of thinking for that one.
Yeah, don't mind that. Don't mind that at all. I do like both Fermor, not only as a player, but just in general. I think he's a bit of a gun bloke. Interestingly, before we quickly scoot on to the next game, Matthew,
Yep.
I want to dart back to the Panthers game real quickly. So Api Coruscant is currently in the judiciary, trying to overturn a one-match suspension. Ivan Cleary is his representative this week. Ivan Cleary is representing Api Coruscant as the prosecutor, not the prosecutor, the lawyer.
The defense.
Yeah, the defense attorney. It's the first time that I've ever seen it happen. I don't know if you can recall any other times.
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting to point out. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, I know we'll get to the Warriors game momentarily. He was suspended for a week, so he'll be out for the Warriors game this week.
Okay. We will jump into the Cowboys versus the Tigers in the meantime. And as for the Cowboys, there are plenty of changes. So Val Holmes will still be in that fullback shirt, but Dayan Arce is into the 3, and Jake Granville will take up his 3rd or 4th different position this season, as he is now used as a centre. Ben Hampton is moved from centre to wing. I'm as shocked as you are. I don't know what's going on anymore. I thought that I was still half asleep when I did the team list this morning. Apparently, I'm not.
I mean, you might have been, to be fair.
Yeah. Frankie Molo will feature in the 8 shirt. Last week we talked around the fact that he's not been getting a great deal of game time. Obviously, the absence of Jason Tamalolo this week will mean that there is a spot for Frankie Molo to come in and really stamp a claim to a starting lineup spot. Condon into the 11. Lukey keeps the 12 shirt, and Hess again is the 13. With Gilbert moved out of the 8 into the 14. Nanai in the 15, with Dunn in the 16, and Neem in the 17, or Niame. I'm not quite sure on the pronunciation. Apologies if I've butchered that name. Then it is Holler, Lemuelu, Wright, and Mochidreke in the 21. Again, apologies if I've butchered that name. First time I've seen it. Into the Tigers. And again, Moses Mbai will be the fullback of choice. Chikam is moved out of the 3 and into the 4, with Talal going to the other side, which means that it will be a new wing centre partnership. Dewey and Brooks are the 6 and 7. Yutokamanu and Tamo in the 8 and the 10, with Little in 9. Blore, Leilua, and McKaylee making up the remainder of the forwards. And then it is Offa Hingawe in the 14, Tlagi in the 15, Twal in the 16, and Sini in the 17, with Simpkins, Madden, and James Roberts making up the reserves. I don't want to say Tigers win, but I'm saying Tigers win. The back line of this Cowboys side is way too makeshift for me. Arce is a half, and he's now being asked to play centre. He's not played a great deal this season. Granville is a hooker who's been used as a fullback and a loose forward, and is now being asked to play centre. Ben Hampton is a water boy who's been asked to play wing.
Okay, no, I can't let this slander continue. Ben Hampton, was it last year? It may have been last year or 2 years ago. I don't know. They're all coming together at this point. Ben Hampton, whatever year it was the Cowboys' leading try scorer playing on the wing. I think it might have been 2 years ago.
He was, and then this season, for whatever reason, Todd Payton has decided that his qualifications dictate that he's running H2O this week.
Hang on, you can't say that. Todd Payton decided that Lolo's qualifications were 45 minutes per game, and then second rower.
Mhm.
Uh.
I'm just calling out the position he's been used the most in. I didn't say it was fair or valid. I just said that that is the majority of which he has played this season. He might have had a few goes with the T as well. I don't know. I don't really watch his running from the sidelines that often. All I know is that Ben Hampton found himself on the outer for the longest time. Then all of a sudden he was a centre, and now he's a winger, and it's a great big mess for me. And
I'm glad
that
you're
is,
analysing this game first because this is a brutal one to look at.
yeah, honestly, the Tigers fill me with such little confidence, but somehow I still look at them and go, lesser of two evils. I mean, I tipped against the Tigers last week. I said that the Dogs would win. 28-16 against a team that sit bottom of the ladder on 6 points is almost not a win in some in some aspects. Yeah, you get the 2 competition points, but you want to be winning those games convincingly. But this Cowboys backline is so makeshift. It's unbelievable. Like, we're at a point where it wouldn't surprise me if Frank Molo were, pulling on the one shirt in a couple of weeks' time. It really wouldn't. They're so strapped for ideas. Moses Mbai is your one going up against Val Holmes and potentially brings more cohesion to an attacking structure than Val Holmes, who most likely is going to get a ball out the back and have to run it because he's got Arce, who's probably wanting to take up the position of a ball player, but he's instead being used as an attacking option. You look at Dayan Arce, he's defended against Cheekham. You look at Granville, he's defended against Talau. Both of those players are not big players. Talau and Cheekham are players that easily could slot into the second row. Cheekham's played a lot of second row. Dayan Arce is in for a long day at the office if they can keep on finding Cheekham. So I'm going Cheekham anytime, straight off the bat. I'm gonna go Tigers 1-12. While it is not a good look for the Cowboys, I think that the Tigers also struggle with attacking structure, and it'll just be the lesser of two evils for me on this one. Brooks, I don't know what's going on with him. I remember a few years ago when it was Woods, Moses, Tedesco, and Brooks all coming through the ranks, and everyone was like, hey, we kept Brooks. That's a bonus. And now everyone's looking at it and going, there were so many.
We screwed up by keeping Brooks.
Yeah, exactly. Why did we not throw $1 million at Moses and hope for the best? Now it's looking like he's on the outer and he's probably going to be on his way out of the Tigers if the Tigers offer him an extension. Okay. But as a Tigers fan, I wouldn't be pleased in that position. I'm not saying I'm a Tigers fan, by the way. Don't jump on me. But I'm going to go Tigers 1-12. Anytime try score a Cheekham, I don't really fancy much else in this game, with the exception of maybe a Val Holmes try.
Have we not agreed on anything so far this week?
No, we're in a very argumentative kind of mood this week.
Okay, but we've agreed on tips so far.
Yes.
Great. That stops. Cowboys 1-12.
Okay.
I despise the fact that Zach Sini is in the 17. And it's not because I don't like him. I despise the fact that they're playing this makeshift spine that is Mbai, Dewey, Brooks, Little for 55 minutes, and then taking Little off, who is an 80-minute player, bringing Zach Cheney on, or Cini on, however you say it, I'm sorry, Zach, and putting Moses Mbai into 9, Cini into 1, and completely screwing up any attacking prowess that they've had. That did not work last week. I don't know why they're going with it this week. It does not make sense. Their forward pack should absolutely steamroll this Cowboys forward pack. Utoi Kamanu, post-Origin, has been superb. Tamo, not great, but you know what? He's doing his job. He's doing what he needs to do. He has his 25-minute spell. Twile comes on, does what he needs to do for 40 minutes. Again, don't know why the hell Twile's on the bench, but whatever. Tamo comes back on. Blore and Lukey, I haven't seen enough of Blore, but I probably would lean towards him. Luciano Leilua has to score this week. Straight off the bat, I'm going Luciano to score. Got to score this week against Ben Condon. Defensively sound, but Luciano from close range is like Billy Kickout. Very few stop him. But there's no attack. We saw last week Rocks and Diamonds out of their attack. Dewey was running the ball at every potential opportunity. Never mind the fact that David Norfoluma was unmarked on the wing. Their tries for the majority came off kicks outside of Luciano. They targeted Mamalo, which was fantastic for my multi because Mamalo's first try got my multi up in 20 minutes. But they're rocks and diamonds. They're rocks and diamonds, and it gives me no confidence. Mind you, the Cowboys don't give me any confidence, but they're playing in Townsville. Dearden looked okay for the first time last week. He and Drinkwater are starting to get a little bit of form together. Hampton on the wing against Nofaluma doesn't fill me with a hell of a lot of confidence. But who knows? Like Dino said, it's a flip of a coin. Hampton could put 2 on Nofo, and Nofo could put 2 on Hampton. It honestly could come down to the kicking game of each team. Who can pin each other in the corners? If Dearden and Drinkwater can pin the likes of Mbai, or if they can target Norfoluma, pin him down in the corner, and not allow him to have an early run in the set, the Cowboys win this. Because if Nofo gets a 10 or 15 meter run with a couple of tackle breaks, it sets the Tigers up. If Nofo can't do that, Talau can go for a jaunt, but there's no strong backline runner. Mamalo is not a strong backline runner compared to what he was 2 or 3 years ago at his best. I'm going Cowboys 1-12. I'm going Luciano Leilua. I'm gonna go Lukey. And that's just the throw at the stumps. One of the Cowboys forwards score, whether it's Lukey or Condon, I don't know. But I'm going to throw at the stumps and stay in Lukey. Honestly, looking at that bench, I'm going 3 hookers this week. I'm going Reece Robson. I'm going out for a night on the King's Cross. I'm going 3 hookers and staying Reece Robson. I think Robson darts over.
Okay. We'll get off that game before we get ourselves in trouble. But we'll go to one I am sure that you are looking forward to getting into, Luke. It is the Seagulls versus the Eels.
Can I please?
Go on.
Manly 40 plus. Let me run through this one. Maybe it'll fill me with a little bit of fake confidence. Starting with the favourite Parramatta Eels. Michael Oldfield comes in for his first game of the year in his club debut. Oh, bite me, Dino. Oldfield comes in for his club debut. He was killing it in reserve grade prior to this COVID outbreak. Unfortunately, that put a stop to it. But he comes into the 5 for Dunster. Papali'i at prop. Joey Lussick comes in at 9 for Reid Marnie. He'll get plenty of game time this year towards the back end. Mattison and Lane are your second rowers. Lane obviously taking the Papali'i route with no Oregon Kafusi. The bench, Will Smith, Bryce Cartwright, Maratini Akore, and Makahesi Makatoa. I apologize if I butchered that. I think I got it. Coming in for his debut. As for the Manly Seagulls, is RCG back? Not back until finals is what I'm hearing. It was a much worse groin strain than first thought. Week 1 of finals, supposedly, for Regan Campbell-Gillard. For the Manly Seagulls, no Paseka. He suffered a medium-grade syndesmosis, no surgery, so he'll be back for finals as well. Toffa Sipley will be out as well with a suspension. So we have Kurt Lewis back into the 17. Josh Alloway goes into the starting lineup. My tips. Now, I said jokingly Manly 40 plus, but I mean, if we play like how we did last week, Tom Turbo is going to score 5 tries. So, if we go to our cheeky sports bet, because we're going to go with a little bit of value this week, Matthew, I'm not going to tip Turbo because he's going to score 1. I'm not going to tip Jason Saab because he'll leap up and score 1. I'm going to go with Brad Parker and Morgan Harper. Our centres have not been playing well at all the last month. I think they both, I mean, you could almost go Manly 1 through 7 and just put him in a multi. It could happen. Josh Schuster, I think, will dart around Sean Lane, grasping at thin air. He's at $4. That's my value bet. If Parramatta scores, and it's a big freaking if, because I have no faith in him whatsoever. Madison at $4.50. Papali'i at $6. If you want a real throw at the stumps, Moses at $6. Manly 30 plus though. Like I seriously think we're screwed.
Okay, was not expecting that, but okay. I am gonna go Seagulls 1 to 12 and back the under in this one.
Sorry, 1 to 12. I diehard Parramatta fan here who never ever went against Parramatta until last week, and you're saying 1 to 12.
I'm saying 1 to 12.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not. I'm never okay. But I'm surviving. Seagulls 1 to 12. The logic behind this is that anytime Parramatta and the Seagulls play, it's always a tight affair. I know that there was a 28 points to 6 blowout earlier in the year in favour of the Seagulls back around May time. Game before that, 22 points to 18. These two sides have got a rivalry. Rivalry always takes teams up another level, and I think that is what will happen here. Yes, the Eels are missing some key players. Having Lussick in the 9 instead of Marnie is immediately a great big call out. Oldfield coming in, you've got Wonga Blake and Oldfield who have a centre wing partnership for the first time this season that is, it's unfamiliar. Charlie Parra will get their stuff together. Somewhat, I agree. Manly 1 to 12. Yeah. So Dean's on my line of thinking. I think it will be tighter than many anticipate. I think that the obvious one here is probably Manly 13 plus Tom Pravojevic to get 412 points or something ridiculous just because he is on whatever he's on this season. He's on a different plane of existence to the rest of mankind at this point. He's tapped into some sort of realm that doesn't exist for us mere mortals and channeling some major energy. But with that, I think Schuster is a good shout. I was looking at Schuster with the whole lineup against Lane. Schuster's the more mobile of the two. He's got that good little bit of footwork. He's got a decent fend to him. And I think that you're probably right. He does bag there. I'm going to go Schuster anytime. I'm going to go Seagulls 1 to 12. I'm going to say back under on this one as well. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I can't see either side getting up above 30 points. So race to 30 points, neither team as well. Just to spice things up a little bit there on mine.
Helps if I unmute myself. Neither for 30.
Neither for 30. This is
with how Tommy Turbo's been playing.
This is going to be an 18-12 or a 16-14, something like that. It's going to be lower scoring.
I bloody hope so, because I'm sitting down watching that game. I've got 16 or 17 mountain goats in the fridge, and I plan on drinking every single one watching that game. I have no faith. I have absolutely no faith in Parramatta whatsoever right now. Dylan Brown has played like absolute poo. Mitch Moses can't carry a team. The wannabe $1 million man is not doing enough to be worth $1 million bloody dollars. No, Manly 30 plus.
Worth mentioning as well, around time of kickoff, showers are expected. that could heavily influence this game. So
30 plus.
Okay. If that is how you're going on that one, Jason says 40-point game, Parramatta to score 10 or less. Okay. With that, we will go to Warriors versus Bulldogs. As you mentioned there, Watene Zelezniak, you mentioned it a short while ago, will not feature this week. He will have a 1-game suspension. So he will be missing this week. Frey comes into the 10, expected to make his debut. Curran and Aitken will swap edges. So Aitken into the 12, Josh Curran into the 11. Suranen in the 13, then it is Nikorima, a forward, Tanoa Brown coming from the reserves onto the bench, and Katoa is in the 17. Going to the reserves is Corsi, Murchie, Townsend, and Egan. I probably wouldn't expect to see Chad Townsend coming in. I think that the Warriors have looked better without him, to be honest. Maybe a bit of a harsh call, but the Warriors have won 2 very tight, gritty games with O'Sullivan and Harris Tavita there in the 6 and 7 and Nikorima in the 14. The Bulldogs going down to their side. It is the familiar fullback of Nick Meaney and then this new halves combination of Biondi Odo and Avarillo in the 6 and 7. The back line is unchanged with a St. Helens bound Will Hopewati in the 3. Sio Manafanai in the 8. Marshall King in the 9, and then it is Ryan James, who's been drafted in on loan to run out in the 10 shirt, and then Elliott, Dory, and Jackson. No Hetherington this week as he cops another suspension. Thompson still out as well, so it is Katoa Patolo and on loan Corey Horsburgh in the 16 and Simpson in the 17. Down to the reserves, it is Flanagan, Ockenbaugh, Topine, and fresh from collecting a medal at the Olympics, it is Judo Lockie Lewis in the 22. So that is how the teams line up for this one. Warriors 1-12 for me, straight off the bat. The Warriors have managed to drum out a few gritty wins in the last few weeks. The depth of character that they've shown after losing their captain early, losing recognized halves pairings. The Warriors are not that far off an 8 spot. There are teams ahead of them. I mean, you've got the Raiders, the Titans, and the Knights all sitting on 20 points. The Sharks and the Dragons on 18. And then it is down to 12th spot where the Warriors sit. If the Warriors put together a decent enough surge, they are there or thereabouts to claim a spot there. Ewan Aitken has been a revelation in the second row. I mean, I could be wrong, but for me, he is arguably one of the pound-for-pound strongest men in the NRL. You saw it last week, shrugged off a couple. He's got that ridiculous fend, that compact power that sees him bust the line where he can. I don't see him going over again this week. I could see Hiku going over against Shoop and Manu as an anytime. I mean, with Watene Zelezniak missing, it's probably going to be Corsi that comes from the reserves into that starting lineup, which means that he'd be partnering Hiku on that side, coming up against Shoop and Manu. 2 big men. I can see Hiku grabbing a try here. I'm going 1-12. There's not much else that I really fancy in this game. The Bulldogs bringing in 2 players on loan that have probably realistically had a few days with the club, running unfamiliar lines, just trying to link up with a halves pairing that are still figuring each other out as well. Screams problems for me, but again, the Dogs are showing signs of improvement, but I think Warriors 1-12 here.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Warriors basically need to win out. Looking at the draw for the next couple of weeks, the Warriors have a very winnable next 4 games. I'm going with you on Bulldogs. Wow, on Warriors 1-12. We'll clear that one up real quick. Going in, keep in mind that this is also slightly result dependent. But if it goes as I tip it this week, I don't know what you're going with for the next game, Maddie. But if it goes as I tip it, the Warriors will be a game outside of the 8 as of next week, where they then play the Bulldogs. Should win that. Oh, sorry, they play the Bulldogs this week. Next week, they play the Broncos at Suncorp. Tough one, potential. They then play the Raiders. Winnable. And then to finish off the season, they play the Titans. Currently scheduled for Seabus Super. I don't think that'll change. That's the big danger game. That is the big danger game. Looking at the teams ahead of them on the ladder, the Dragons play... Who did we say the Dragons have this week? I've already forgotten. Dragons have the Panthers. They're going to lose that. And they play the Bunnies in round 25. So there's the 2-game gap on the Dragons, and that's assuming that they win their other 2, which they're not going to. The Knights. I don't know about the Knights. The Knights and the Sharks are the 2, or Knights, Sharks, and the Raiders. Because I don't think the Titans are going to drop enough games for them to worry too much. I think it will be between the Raiders, the Knights, the Sharks, and the Warriors for that final spot, which then comes to the points differential. The Raiders, minus 74. The Knights, minus 139. That will come back to bite them. The Sharks on a minus 60 and the Warriors on a minus 127. So if it does come to points differential, the Warriors need a big win this week. I think I said Warriors won 12. I'm going to go 13 plus because I think they now know. After last week, somehow they kept themselves in this hunt with a come-from-behind victory against the Sharks. But they now know the gravity of the situation. They've got to win all 4, and they've got to win big for a couple of them. I think they have to play all out this week. They're going to have to go big. It's go big or go home. Warriors 13 plus. No, Watene Zelezniak, as we mentioned this week, so I imagine it'll be Edward Cossey coming in. He's currently listed in the 18. There's no other back that I can see unless they throw Hiku out wide, Aitken into the centres, Ali Katoa into the 11. That would be into the 12, sorry. That could be a potential change. But I'm going to go Aitken again. Like you said, Matt, he's been superb. Wow. Superb. For the Warriors this year, in the second row, granted it's only been a couple of games, coming up against a forward pack that has, for the majority, conceded plenty of run meters, plenty of missed tackles. They get a little bit of reinforcement with the red-headed, fiery Corey Horsburgh starting off the bench, but I think you and Aitken goes over early. Don't know about first try scorer. I'm looking more towards Adam Pompey for a first try scorer, going up into Will Hopewadi, who recently, last night actually, was confirmed to be going to St. Helens for next year. I think Pompey just bowls over Hopewadi. He's not a defensive centre. I think Pompey goes over for your first try scorer. If I have to pick one, again, I'm going with Jake Averillo for the Bulldogs. He threatens just so much. He's such a threatening player. You could also make a very good chance for Nick Meaney. Though, if I'm a Bulldogs fan and I'm always picking 2 dogs in my anytime try scorer markets, it's those 2. Meaney at 240, I think, is great value. Averillo at 433 is great value. Pompey at 260 and Aitken at, if I can find him, 263. Look, if you want to throw all those 4 together, they're paying $70 as a multi. That's worth $5 for me. But Warriors 13 plus.
Okay. And then we will wrap it up with the Sharks versus the Knights. The Sharks, the big inclusion in their backline is Talakai going into the centre. We've seen Talakai run out at centre before, and he was a danger there. So no Will Chambers this week. He is demoted to the 18 spot. Hamlin Uele is moved from the bench into the starting 8 shirt. Brayley in the 9 with Woods in the 10. Nikora, Williams, and Rudolph make up the remainder of the forwards in 11, 12, and 13, respectively. Metcalf on into the 14. Tolman is moved from that starting prop role into the 15. Fafita moved from 17 into 16, and Magulius will make up the remainder of the bench. Then going to the reserves, it is Lua, Chambers, a re-signed Kai O'Donnell, the former Raider, linking up with the Sharks, and offered a lifeline on his NRL career, and Hirote in the 21. Going through to the Knights, it's a welcome return for Jaden Brayley, who will run out against his brother in the nines, in the Battle of the Nines there. It's going to be an interesting one. It's certainly going to be fun to watch, is that one, which means that there is no Randall this week. Clifford and Pearce in the halves. It is an unchanged backline of Ponga, Tuala, Mann, Best, and Hunt. Unchanged in the forwards as well, it is the Saifiti brothers, Frizzell, Barnett, and Watson, with Sue, Clemmer, Sasagi, and Jones making up the bench. King, Momoisea, Crossland, and Toa making up the reserves. I see the Sharks potentially winning this one.
So do I.
Oh, I expected a disagreement. I was
No.
very, very prepared for a disagreement there. Okay.
No, I'm with you on that one, and I'm just going to go tip straight out because I've rambled enough tonight. I'll let you do the analysis on this one. Jesse Ramian scores against Kurt Mann. I think he's too strong. I think he'll barrel over. I think Connor Tracy darts over. He's been threatening without going over. I think he goes through this week. If I'm looking at Newcastle, I think you have to target the fringes of the Sharks. The fringes, or the fringe forwards, are where they're a little bit weaker in comparison. Tyson Frizzell from close range. Sharks 1-12. You can analyse.
Okay. Yeah, both these sides are trying to find their way into the 8 at this point. They've got a lot to lose. It's going to be a tight one. I think this one will be lower scoring than a lot of people think, based on the fact that both sides know how much is at stake with teams playing, teams in and around them playing better teams, as we mentioned. The Dragons playing the Panthers this week. You got the Raiders playing the Storm. There's an opportunity for points here, and if these teams want to take those points, they need to. It's going to be a hard-fought one. I'm going to go Talakai anytime. I think as the numbers line up, he comes up against Bradman Best and Hymel Hunt. That 3 on the edge of Best, Hunt, and Ponga have brought in plenty of points for the Knights. I expect it to be a little bit quieter this time. And that combination of Katoa and Talakai is just going to be too big and too strong. That edge gives up a lot of size on players like Katoa and Talakai. So I'm going Talakai anytime. Bradman Best was potentially one that I looked at for an anytime try as well. But I'm going to go the other side. I'm going to go Talakai. I'm going to go Sharks 1-12. And I'm going to say back the under on this one, because although these teams do have a propensity to leak points, I think that this one will be lower scoring. Again, the weather potentially playing a factor with this one. And I'm just going to leave that one there. Sharks 1-12, back the under, and Talakai anytime are my tips for this one.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that you said Sharks, because I would have gone in for the fight there. I was basing my last game analysis on the Sharks winning. So glad to see that we agree, but I think it's time we say bye-bye, because we have been on for quite a while, young sir.
That we have. No, that just leaves us time to thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you have, do let us know in the comments. As ever, if there's any games that you want to watch, or any games that you've missed, or you're just looking for your team's individual preview, join us on the link below there at Recast. Search for CKM Red Rugby League, and you can watch your team's individual preview there. Click the link in our profile; it'll take you straight through there. But no, thank you for joining us, and we will see you same time next week to go over the team list tips and news for round 23 of the NRL season.